Hello, I'm David Coreen, and I'm joined today by Jeremy Jacobs of Davron. Welcome to today's podcast. And today, Jeremy and I are going to be doing a Boolean search for a civil land development engineer, a PE or an EI, as I see it, an EIT, right, Jeremy?
Correct.
It's one of our clients that we have in Greenville, South Carolina. So, not the most populous area, and we are, for this purposes of the webcast, strictly going to be focused on doing a Boolean search on Monster. So we'll see what we get, right, Jeremy?
Sounds good.
Tell me a little bit more about your client. I know they're looking for a land development civil engineer.
Correct. They have a pretty well-established land development team. They try to hold their employees a long time, so they advance people well, and that's why this position's open. They're looking for somebody to step in. So we're definitely looking for somebody who has pursued that EIT license with a land development background. They focus on commercial projects. Their clients are primarily commercial office space or a retail space, for example. So that project would involve some land development and site design. Not heavy on the roadway side, so it definitely focuses more on civil site design rather than transportation or anything like that.
I think for anybody watching this or listening to this webcast, you should be somewhat familiar with engineering staffing, but as a brief review, a PE in the engineering world is the equivalent of having an MD as a doctor. So you stamp off on plans, it's an official license, it's all registered. Prior to becoming a PE, you must be an EIT, or, not to confuse things, occasionally they're called EIs. Same thing, also a registered position. You have to work under the tutelage of a PE for 5 years, somewhat of an intern, if you will. No different than really a doctor going through his residency internship, I imagine, Jeremy. And then you become qualified to take your PE exam and ultimately become a PE. So in this case, your client is looking for somebody that has this registration, somebody with an EI and EIT pursuing their PE, or they'll actually take somebody that has a PE as well. Is that correct?
Correct.
Good. All right. We've got a pretty large range here for the salary. You think your client is flexible on that, Jeremy?
For the perfect person, obviously, yes. If we find someone who's got their professional engineer's registration, exemplary experience, and they're looking to make a long-term stay, I could see them being flexible on that, of course.
Monster lists what people's salary preferences are. I often take those with a grain of salt. So we'll see what we're getting out there. And as a baseline Boolean, Jeremy, what we're looking at here is the different iterations of professional engineer or an EIT in engineering training. So here we have PE with no dots separating it. Here you've got a P.E with no dot on the end. You'll notice another dot over here. You notice the word professional, rather the title professional engineer spelled out. Now, interestingly enough, in the engineering world, you notice Jeremy, engineer in training, and EIT is also an engineering intern. We've also seen it spelled engineer, intern, and every iteration of that as well. EIT with no dots, EIT with a dot missing on the T, and we actually have discerned and found differences. So missing any of these while executing a Boolean search, you're going to miss out on candidates.
Oh, absolutely. You see it appear a myriad of different ways, so it's definitely best to use all these different iterations. To not do so, you're going to miss out on some possible great talent.
So I'm going to copy this particular Boolean. I'm going to navigate over to Monster. And I'm already logged in on the employer site. Now, Monster has been pushing everybody towards Power Resume search. I know you've tried it. I know that I've executed search. What's your view on the Power Resume search, Jeremy?
I think that the Power Resume search will definitely help you find people who have the exact title of what you're looking for. Now, I think when you start to add in other keywords, it can be a bit less defined because then you're just pulling anyone who this keyword appears in on their resume or on their profile. So I think that you have to be careful with Power Resume Search not to give too much credence to the rating next to exactly what that resume lists. It'll tell you this is an 8.6 out of 10 match or something like that. And it could simply be because of titles. And sometimes, as we all know, businesses will have different responsibilities under a title, so it can be a bit misleading. Definitely a great tool if you know exactly what you're looking for and you're prepared to spend the time going through that title as well. But I would not put any more faith in it than I would in the classic search. I think there's a time and a place for both.
Agreed. I think the Power Resume Search is a really quick, easy tool, especially for beginner recruiters or people that are not as familiar with Boolean search operators. But for the purposes of this webcast, and further, if you really want to get exactly who you're looking for, really the only way to execute that is to use the classic resume search. So we'll navigate over to that. Most of you are familiar with Navigating Monster. For those of you that are not, you have certain areas, criteria that you can slice and dice and fill this in on. Jeremy, you know this, for the vast majority of the time, we simply use the top search toolbar. So as a baseline Boolean, I'm just going to paste every iteration of PE, EIT, EI, and so on. I'm going to look at all resumes, and I'm just going to look for some low-hanging fruit. My memory is terrible, Jeremy. You happen to remember the zip code for this place?
I do. It's 29609.
Jeremy in the house. 29, one more time?
609.
Understood. So 30 miles in the South Carolina area. I'm hoping it's more commutable than it is, say, being in Manhattan.
Absolutely.
Pleasant drive.
Yes.
So people probably say yes to us if we call them and tell them it's a local position within 30 miles. Notice that I'm looking at all resumes. I'm not interested in looking at who posted within the past month, within the past couple of months. Well, that's a pretty large result as a baseline Boolean. Now, I'm assuming that there were no mistakes within the Boolean itself, and within 30 miles, I don't know how easily you can see that on the screen, but we have 654 candidates. One thing, now these are just PEs or EIs, or they have this kind of iteration, and we are going to get some false positives somewhere up in here as well. But as you can tell, a lot of these guys, just by title, and a little trick here is, you know, some of these have no title, some of them do. You can search for low-hanging fruit by putting in a title in there, but you're also going to eliminate a lot of good candidates. Still, nonetheless, Jeremy, you see that they're not a fit. Manufacturing engineer, mechanical engineer, beverage group, a controls engineer. We place these guys, we know that they're not civil land development engineers. So it looks like we're going to have to refine our search just a little bit further. We have some clues of what our client is looking for within the actual job description. I think it's nice. They offer dental. It's obviously not something that we're going to use in our Boolean cafeteria plan, Jeremy. We got a nice client going on over here. 24 days of vacation. Oh boy, you're not going to move to South Carolina anytime soon, are you, Jeremy? They'll help with licensing assistant and so on, but look, let's face it. It's not something that we can use in our Boolean. So we have to look for something that is going to give us a land development civil engineer. We know it because we have searched for these guys many times. We know that certain keywords keep appearing over and over and over again that are endemic, that are specific to land development engineers. Land development, well, if you're looking for a land development engineer, using the word land development is usually a good idea. If you notice that we're putting this in quotes. You want land development to come back and look just like that, you have to put it in quotes. That's basic. We've capitalized the ors. Some older Boolean search engines will only accept capitalized. I'm old school. Taught Jeremy old school as well. So we capitalize the operators. Better safe than sorry. Monster accepts non-capital ors, ands as well. If you notice other words, subdivision. Well, land development engineers, what they do. Design up a subdivision, site development, drainage. Some of these are getting a little bit more specific. I'm not sure what we're going to get. And we get a lot of these over here. Erosion, civil development, and these are just ideas. These are just thoughts. Over here, we notice that our client is using a software program called Civil 3D. They do have it written the way that the program itself has it written out as well. AutoCAD or Autodesk, the manufacturer. However, as you'll notice over here, we make sure to have every iteration of it. Where you have a space between the Civil 3D, there is no space. The way the client has written it, hyphenated as well. Jeremy. I also noticed that over here we have a StarCAD star. And first, give me a basics. What's the star do when we put that in there?
For whatever word that a star may appear in front of or after, it's going to pull that from resumes, regardless of what the word before that may be. That star means include the word before in a rough sense. So if I write StarCAD star, it might bring me AutoCAD, it might bring me CAD Civil 3D, CAD 2D, CAD 3D, etc.
Perfect. Occasionally we see CAD spelled with two Ds. Occasionally we see CAD as AutoCAD, just CAD, and what some Boolean data miners didn't know or don't know is that the wildcard, the star, as Jeremy explained, works in front and behind. So in this case, we've captured every iteration of CAD, AutoCAD, space, no space, 2Ds, 1D, simply by writing StarCAD star. These are general search terms that we use for simple land development engineers. We do have a couple of other things over here. Your client does commercial space. They're also in the retail sector. Big box, things like Walmart, Best Buy, Sam's, Costco, and the like. Looks like they got a gas station franchise, so it'd be nice if we could find somebody that's actually done some kind of land development or civil design for gas stations.
Absolutely. It involves plazas that are going to have an inlet and an outlet, so familiarity with connecting that parking lot area to the DOT road, that brief widening there, that kind of experience will definitely be valuable, something to think about.
I think that those are all great things to keep in mind and all things that we're going to keep developing as a Boolean as we move this forward. So I know this. It appears to me, we'll start off over here, that land development should probably be a part of this. I don't want to make it too broad. I don't know if erosion or drainage is good. I do know this. Land development is the exact same thing as site development.
Exactly.
Site design, very possible.
You see site design and site layout very often, I've found with this search, land development specifically.
And Jeremy, do we need to include layout as one word or two words? And we want to be safe. We kind of normally see it as just one word, don't we?
Right, but to be safe, I would write it as two. You're capturing the same idea. It's not going to bring in any false positives from different industry or anything like that because you use a space or you use a dash.
Now, I'm messing all that up with my capitals and everything, but luckily, Monster knows what I'm doing. And you suggested a hyphen in there as well, correct?
Correct.
Well, I think we're on our way. I don't know if adding commercial to it yet or not is important yet. I'm not sure, but you know what? I really like this CAD stuff over here. I know your client is using Civil 3D, and I know that that's the tool that's most popular right now. What do you think? Should we include star CAD star, or should we just start off initially just looking for somebody that has a civil 3D in their resume, Jeremy?
I think it's best to include the StarCAD star and sift through the options that you're going to see because we've already refined these results a bit. They're going to be much closer to what we want. And though we've captured plenty of iterations of Civil 3D, we never know what somebody may write. They don't always have it right in front of them the way that the manufacturer would write it. We see a lot of different options. We try to go with the most common, but StarCAD star definitely captures anything that might come up.
Better safe than sorry. I completely agree. So, as a quick review, here's what we have together. And again, overall, the Boolean itself, I think, obviously pretty simple, but becoming more and more complex by structuring different operators, different thoughts. So far, we've got every iteration captured of what a PE is. And if you notice, some are in quotes. In fact, we put all of these in quotes. You don't have to put PE in quotes over here. We do just as a separator. It's not going to hurt. It's not going to help. For those of you that are extremely Boolean savvy, we get that. Same thing with EIT. You don't have to quote that. We do just as a visual reminder, if you will. This is all surrounded by parentheses and joined by ors, with the separators. So it is going to give me something in their resume. Has to have one of these in there. And our next item here, Jeremy, is right here, and then. So we're now looking for an EI or a PE with land development, or site design, or site layout. And I think it's Jeremy's suggestion. I can't take it, Jeremy. I have to fix that. Or site layout. And the final iteration, Civil 3D or Civil 3D, or the iteration of CAD, as Jeremy noted, in the different versions it'll bring.
I think it's a promising Boolean. You've got the profession and the title. You've got something that they would be up to on a daily basis, some kind of activity. And then you've got something that they use, a daily tool. So it'll bring you some very accurate results.
Let's give it a shot. Everything being the same. I don't remember. What was that result, Jeremy? It's 400 some odd people.
Correct.
Obviously, we're going to get a lot less. We're being a lot more refined in our search. I'm going to leave the exact same parameters 30 miles away from 29609, beautiful Greenville, South Carolina. I actually don't know if it's beautiful or not. I've never been there. Jeremy, have you?
Driven through once. It's definitely beautiful. Yeah, beautiful area.
Very nice. Well, look, if anybody's interested in this, if you happen to be a PE or an EI that's got some land development experience, please contact Jeremy. 813-961-6632. Jeremy, you are at extension
35.
35 is Jeremy. Well, we've whittled them down quite a bit, haven't we, over here? It's gone from 400 some odd to 6. I'm hoping that some of these guys are going to be a fit, although at first blush, I'm not so sure. Let's take a look. Notice, I'm going to click out of this real quick. It'll come up. We got a CAD technician. And these are guys in demand. These are things that Jeremy knows that just because he didn't find the PE, we're always looking for good CAD designers, CAD technicians. This guy's a land development CAD guy. I don't know where your client is and who they're well. Right now, they're looking for a PE or an EI, but I imagine that good recruiting involves talking to anybody that's in high demand. So congratulations to you, Mr. Kaufman, for having a skill set that's paying you some good money. Here we've got an engineering manager. Now, if you notice, I'm clicking over here. If you click over here, and if you got a lot of results, in this case we only got 6, it'll take me to a whole brand new page. It'll bring this Vincent Bozic candidate up and returns back. The problem is that when you have more than 6 results, if you have a giant page, and you know this, Jeremy, it tends to reshuffle the board. The other thing that I think you'll notice is that I don't have it sorted by Monster's default sort rating, which is by relevance. Relevance is kind of like a Power Resume search. It uses algorithmic-based weighting. Mine is by when they posted their resume. If they have these keywords in here, if they've got PE, if they've got CAD, if they've got some of that site development, I want to see it. We know why it came up in Jack's resume. We know that CAD is in there. Jeremy eloquently explained StarCAD Star is going to bring that up. In this case, well, it didn't hurt it, didn't help it. CAD alone would have returned it, but I promise you, if you see, there it is. How about CAD with two D's, as we just talked about, and here it is being caught. We got West Coast CAD spelling it. We know why he got picked up. I imagine that this man over here would be a candidate, passive candidate sourcing is for another lesson. Let's keep looking. Manager 21, huh? Why are you up on our screen, Vincent? This guy looks more like Wilson Composites. Well, what's happening here? We know why he's in here. You got CAD. CAD's a very general catch-all, but we do have to have it. And there's that civil site that's up there. I'm assuming PE's got to be somewhere up in there too, and he's overseen by PE. Unfortunately, not our guy, is it?
No.
But we do know why he's up, and this is part of being a good recruiter. Sifting through resumes, looking at people, discerning, understanding who's a good guy, who's not. Here we have Mr. Michael Wilson. Mr. Wilson has his EIT. Notice the way that he has it listed out, dotted in between. He's a pipeline project manager. It's not exactly what land development is.
No.
He's got to have that somewhere in there. There's that civil 3D.
Seems as though he's gone into construction management since back in 2008.
What do you make of a guy like this? Just, I know the purposes for this particular podcast is a Boolean, but I'd like to get your thoughts. You have a man over here that looks like he was a civil engineer. He did it for 5 years, from 2003 to 2008, about 10 years ago. Then he started working as a foreman for Exxon. Obviously takes him away from the field and continues on. Here he's working, Papua New Guinea. How exotic. I wonder if that's any prettier than Greenville, South Carolina. And, well, it looks like we have a slightly older resume. I wonder what he's been up to. What would you do? Would you call Michael Wilson and find out what he's up to? Or do you think we should keep looking?
I think in this case it would be best to keep looking. He's definitely worthy to keep by the side, though, because we're working in that industry. It seems like he was a land development civil engineer, and then he found his passion for directing construction for pipeline projects. That's been his career path since then. So it doesn't make sense to put too much time into trying to find out if he wants to veer away from a 10-year career path. But we have always other positions, always construction manager positions. We're in that industry, so he's definitely someone to keep in mind for other opportunities that you may have on the table at the time.
Agreed. I think that our client is looking for somebody to hit the ground running. And further, I think that what they're ideally looking for, just reading between the lines, is they're looking for somebody who's an EIT or freshly minted PE. In this case, it's a non-traditional track, isn't it? He became an EIT and then veered away from that, and as you said, went into pipeline, construction management, Exxon, and so on. So he doesn't really need a PE. He's not stamping off on plans, but they are using his brain as an engineer. Would I call him? Probably not also right off the bat. I would probably keep him on as a back burner. I'm not sure what he's doing back in South Carolina, and I'm not sure what he's been doing for the past few years. It depends on how desperate I get, is where I'm going with that, or how desperate our client is. I know that they're taking their time with being, I don't want to call it picky, but I think they're looking for the ideal person. So here we have Erin Kinsey. Notice the way that she's got her EIT. There are no dots in it. So a 3D comes up. And I don't know if I'm going to butcher this. Gewalt Hamilton. Mr. Gewalt's going to kill me. Site design group. So it's interesting. What's happening here? Graduate teaching assistant or researcher.
Seems like she might still be in school.
Natural soils. This looks very geological or environmental based. She's a civil engineer over here. Design. Doesn't really talk about what kind of. Here we have that word erosion that we had previously, or drainage. Just stormwater stuff. It's good. Pretty close. Good land development stuff. Over here again, construction erosion control rather. It's on the cusp. It's pretty much land development kind of work. So I definitely think that there's somebody that needs to be contacted. I know she's right now at Clemson. Curious if, well, I'm on the wrong computer here. How about I let you get Aaron Kinsey? This is a real life search for one of our clients right now that you're witnessing. If you're a recruiter, please don't contact Aaron. Jeremy's got this.
She's on my list.
She's on his list. Y'all heard. I'm going to go through the rest of these, and then we're going to open it up just a little bit further, Jeremy, just to give you an insight into how it is that we execute our Booleans over here in Davron. Here we have Jason Baum. Notice the PE over here, and each one of these guys is kind of different, aren't they?
So much so.
Some of them wrote out professional engineer. Some of them don't have dots, the EIs, the PEs, and so on. Horsehead Meadows, what is going on over here? He's a plant mechanical project engineer. That's not land development, is it, Jeremy?
Yes, sir.
I want to move a little bit further down just to see why this man came up. We see over here we've got site development. Pike Energy Solutions looks to me like we have a energy hub over there as well. Mechanical engineer. Parsons doing some CAD work. I'm really not going to look much more at this man's resume, but the fact that he is a licensed visa mechanical engineer is not really quite a silk PE. And site development came up over here, and that's why he's there, but that's part of recruiting. You heard Jeremy say that he prefers to keep StarCAD star versus not. Why? He didn't want to eliminate everybody. He'd rather sift through them, as I think the wording that he used, I completely agree. And here Nakia is on a journey to become a professional engineer. The question is she in the eye? She looks like she's pursuing a master's of science in engineering. Emphasis in structural geotechnical. She's got a master's in civil engineering. An assistant teacher, a data analyst. Well, a little bit of transportation engineering for a very short amount of time. A couple of years prior.
I get the feeling that she definitely has seen similar work before, especially with those early positions, but she's been working hard on furthering her education and getting extra degrees, so I think it's taken her away from doing that actively on a daily basis.
Doesn't have her EIT, although interesting to me because she's close. Our client is in Greenville. She's in Greenville, so she's right there.
Right.
And also they're looking from reading between the lines for somebody that's a freshly minted PE or an up-and-coming EIT, and she says that she wants to become a PE. I think this is one of those discernment things. I'm not sure if Jeremy would or wouldn't call her. I would probably put her on a secondary or tertiary list, if you will, but for now, what would you do? Would you call her, Jeremy? Curious.
As you said, a tertiary list, and they're definitely people that I want to call because they have interesting job history or interesting education, and it seems like their career path would lead them towards what we work with as far as our job orders go. So that's always something promising. You never know who you're going to find who's just graduated or, yeah, I was about to update my resume tomorrow. I just got my EIT or I'm testing for my PE in a week. You never know what you're going to find. So those tertiary lists are very important.
I think that what we teach here and what Jeremy is emphasizing is spreading seeds, getting your name out there, becoming an expert within your field. You never know. A lot of our business is repeat business. For the purposes of this podcast, let's take a look, Jeremy. Now, I know we're within 30 miles. I'm going to stretch it out to 50 miles. I feel like we're going to hit a few more city centers. We had 6 before. Let's see what 50 miles brings back for us. I thought we upgraded our internet speed, Jeremy. What's going on here?
There we go.
Just one more. Looks like it didn't add all that much. Maybe it's a rural area. We might have to go on a little bit further. So we got
register. Project engineer.
Craft foods.
Makes me think mechanical, manufacturing.
Quite possible. Certainly craft foods. Doesn't ring land development to me. Oscar Myers making hot dogs or below.
Ammonium refrigeration. Yeah, he looks like a facilities engineer.
He does.
Maintenance.
Exactly. Food manufacturing. I don't think you got manufacturing spelled right over here, Jeremy. I'm sorry about that. Perfect. I don't know what's wrong with me. I'm sorry about that, but I do see why he's coming up. It's interesting to me here. I don't know if we can move this out of the way. Here we go.
Mm.
It's got an EIT, but it's not coming up highlighted. I wonder why. I'm curious about that. In fact, none of the stuff got highlighted. Normally it does. Occasionally we do see glitches within Monster. I think that if we search low and high,
That can depend on the way that he uploaded his resume. If he uploaded a picture of his file as a Word document, it may affect the way it highlights things in
it
Monster.
certainly does, doesn't it? We found certain glitches. We've looked at resumes that were uploaded as picture files, and they did come up over here. They're not coming up for whatever reason. So we do have CAD here and here. Any data mining professional will tell you and see how they disappeared. So they are in there. And Monster is executing the correct Boolean parameters. Control F for the beginning data miners, as you saw, brings up a search screen. I simply put in the word CAD. Hitting enter over here, you can see one of two. Simply navigating from one to the next. Is where those words are coming up. We already determined that he's not a fit, so I'm not going to go through and look for site development, land development, and the like. We're simply going to modify our search here. Well, shoot. You can pick here by different states, but I'm just going to keep expanding out. Let's see what we get out of 100 miles.
All right. There we go, up to 49.
Okay, looks like we've hit Charlotte, Augusta, Georgia, and a few other larger cities, or at least other cities. And
I've looked at Mark Finley before for this search.
I bet you have some different thoughts here. You can put in the most recent title, but the problem is this person didn't put in a title near this, near this, and near this, and one of these guys may be a perfect fit. So by putting in a title, let's say land development engineer, just engineer, civil engineer, whatever your thoughts may be, it may drill down further. It may get you, like if you're looking for a piping designer and you put in piping designer in here, it'll find you the right guy, but it'll also eliminate a lot of choices as well. I think Jeremy, as a recruiting preference, prefers to look at these guys and click on the ones mystery people are all clicked on. Here's a design technician, project manager, and so on. And I think the grander thought over here is to continue to modify your Boolean and continue to modify your thoughts, but for the purposes of this and anybody who is beginning in their journey of identifying engineering professionals, in this particular case, land development engineer, I think these are some pretty good thoughts, Jeremy. Thank you so much for joining us today for our webcast on Boolean searching of Monster for land development, PE, or EIT. This is David Coreen. Joining me is Jeremy Jacobs from Davron. If you're an engineer, if you're an architect, if you're a construction professional, if you are looking for a job, if you are an employer who is looking to hire somebody, please give us a call. We've got some incredible offerings. We've got professional recruiting tools that we can put at your fingertips, an exclusive agreement with CareerShift that will give you the same kind of tools that we have that you've seen over here. Give us a call, davron.net is our website, 813-961-6632. Jeremy, you're at extension what?
35.
Talk to Jeremy, he'll set you straight. If you're looking for a job or if you're an employer who's looking to hire. And thank you again for joining us on today's webcast session. It's David Coreen and Jeremy Jacobs saying goodbye. Thank you.